The common debate in the investment and financial world has been the potential that lies in the performance of the new digital asset, Bitcoin. While millions and billions of dollars are being put into Bitcoin by people the world over with the stand that Bitcoin is the new gold, which has the power of transforming the financial world, there are also many questioning its credibility because either they don't understand the asset and how it works, or they are aware of its high volatile nature and are just not able to trust it. But if you ask some of the experts who have been in the industry for decades, they will tell you that in their opinion, Bitcoin right now is one of the most profitable and best assets they could put their money in, even better than the long-trusted gold, because they feel that Bitcoin will outperform all the so-called secure assets including gold, silver, etc.
There's no question that Bitcoin is going to outperform gold. So I think people should stop talking on Twitter about.
Dan Tapiero is one of these experts who has been a supporter of Bitcoin for a few years. He had encouraged and told people to go ahead and put their money in Bitcoin through both his personal social media as well as professional content he put out. But with the advices he furthered, there also came a point when Bitcoin dropped by a few numbers, and people who have been following the content and advice from Dan bombarded him with questions and even rude replies, saying that he did not know what he was talking about, and that he was wrong about Bitcoin being the next financial game changer.
The balance sheets of central banks have been exploding. M2 is up 25% year over year, and it's really not been up over 10% at any period. Rates are zero globally. There's huge injections of liquidity going on by all the major central banks. So that's not really, that doesn't really need explanation. I think it's a little more difficult to explain Bitcoin.
He got so many messages on almost all platforms that for the first time ever in his life, he took to Twitter and used a harsh language to tell people to stop telling him he was wrong. Why? Because he, along with many others across the world, believe in Bitcoin just too much to get perturbed by a few lows or drops in the short term. He further explained that Bitcoin was like a ticking bomb, an asset as well as a market in itself. That too, the only truly feeling trading market that is going to boom in the coming years. He claimed that while the dollar was quite strong at the time, it was pretty clear that the Federal Reserve would sacrifice the dollar a lot before the equity and asset markets. It meant that they would easily let the dollar go down if it helped the equity market become stronger. But that was the time when a lot of the experts realized it and became macro guys and started focusing on the long term instead of making small profits via equity in the short term. If you consider the position of Bitcoin and gold in the current market, it is very clear that a lot of people are liquidating their positions in gold in order to convert to Bitcoin for a very long time. You would see this when you realize that the M2 is up by 25% this year, while it has not been up by over 10% in any other period for a long time. Even the banks all over the place are getting a ton of liquidation injections in recent times, understanding that people are pulling money out to get their hands on as much Bitcoin as they possibly could. Gold became known as a secure asset specifically because it was finite and their scarcity. To own gold meant to be short fiat currency, but the fact is that it is almost unlimited because the government has been printing more money than it ever did in the last 500 years.
And March was really bad, but I can remember that one day in March when it gapped down, the Bitcoin gapped down through like 6, it was 6 and then 5. And I started getting all of these messages from all these people that like, Dan, you were so wrong, you don't know anything. And I put this tweet out like, listen, it's the only time, and I'm against the cursing on Twitter just because you gotta, but it was the only time on Twitter I said, I said STFU.
Because gold was limited, its price would definitely increase over the years, which it does by about 1% or so till now. It's basically about the paper versus the hard asset dichotomy that makes the asset that much more valuable in the eyes of the investors as well as the individuals. But many have said that the gold versus Bitcoin rivalry will not result in coexistence, which according to Dan is incorrect. He feels that it is important to own both. However, he also believes that when it comes to appreciation potential, Bitcoin will always outperform gold. For example, if you think in the next 5 years that gold will be at 5,000, yes, sure it will be, but Bitcoin will probably be at 300,000 or 400,000 at the same time, making it a much bigger gainer over the years. It is about 20 to 30 times more, and hence proved to be the better performer in terms of appreciation of value. And you can ask anyone in the gold world, including the ones that have been the biggest supporter of gold as an asset, would not debate the fact that Bitcoin will outperform gold no matter what. Having said that, I would also like to say that gold has its own place in the market as well. For example, in light of the fact that Bitcoin is performing better, many small investors with limited amount of money say, I don't need gold because I want to invest in the asset. That is going to get me the most profit and the one that is going to gain more and perform better, but the fact is that gold has certain characteristics and advantages that not many people are aware of if they are not involved in the investment market very deeply and have been for a long time. So understandably, many people say, why should we even bother with gold anyways, if there's a better option?
To own gold is to own, is to be short fiat, right? And so there's also this paper hard asset dichotomy, which really resonates with sort of more traditional investment managers, meaning they get there's paper, they get there's an unlimited amount of paper, right? Or there will be. And that there's more or less a finite amount of gold, and that it's hard, you can hold it.
In this case, Dan always says that yes, it is true that Bitcoin is a new advanced technology while gold, in a technologist world, is old technology. But that is not the reason why gold is important for investors both big and small. What makes gold important is the fact that the gold market is as huge as $11 to $12 trillion. And the fact that gold itself as an asset is extremely liquid. On the other hand, the Bitcoin market is still only about $350 million, which is still growing and has a long way to go. So, for example, if you are an organization with $1 trillion in your bank account and wanted to put 5% of it to work in a non-fiat asset that is scarce and is valuable and secure, then you'd probably choose to put about $50 billion in gold rather than Bitcoin. Why? Because it is easy to accumulate gold and do it in a short time as compared to Bitcoin. At the end, the entire point of this conversation comes down to one thing. While Bitcoin is going to outperform gold when it comes to the appreciation factor, gold still holds the place in the market that Bitcoin is not going to overtake as of now, until something very drastic happens in either the Bitcoin or the gold worlds. So even for small investors as well as big ones, it is the best way to have a position in both the assets in varying proportions as per your own preferences, so that you can benefit from the different characteristics of both. In other words, the perfect portfolio in light of the current investment market would be the one that holds both gold and Bitcoin instead of having all of either of the one.
Gold versus Bitcoin doesn't end in coexistence. And it's something that, I really don't believe that's true. And I think one of the themes, if you'd say there's one theme that's consistent that I continue to put out on Twitter, is that you really have to own both.